Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and today we are talking about Obsidian Star, or specifically, we will be talking about a particular rules clarification or rules change. And of course, this is going to deal with science fiction tabletop role playing and adventuring in a location of our own solar system, the Copernican system, the Helios system, or a place known as simply as the SIS or the system uh, in this particular setting. And we here love science fiction, and I am a particular proponent of hard science fiction, and it can be difficult when we want to have fun, we want to tell stories, we want things to be exciting, and still embrace a hard science fiction part of um, the far future and extra stellar exploration and interactions and things like that. So, so art and science on Monday's Revenge. I love all these names. Yeah, Revenge of the Sis. Yeah, yeah. And there's a little bit of a tongue in cheek because when you hear the word cis, it may sound like something else, and that's actually very close to what we will be discussing. So, art and science. So, art and science is the mechanism. We're going to talk about resolution here. We're going to talk about like dice resolution, and the system is known or as art and science, and the art of it is the fuzzy partial success. Let's describe a thing that happened, but maybe there's like an upbeat or a downturn. Um, that's the art. That is the success with a consequence or a failure, but pushing forward with some success to it. The science of it is straight up the numbers. So we're going to compare and contrast the two and tell you what it all means. So I'd like to share something with you. So here in the document, I have um, I have given more detail to what the various bits and pieces of the document entail. So I guess maybe there should be some context to this. So on the character sheet, here we go. On the character sheet, we have ourselves three methods in which you can solve an issue. And I will be trying to not necessarily focus on combat because anytime we have an issue and there's a random chance, unknown chance of something happening, success or failure, this is how we resolve it. So off to the very left, we have a method, and you're going to pick one of those methods: force, flex, or fulcrum. And in that order is how actions take place. So instead of rolling initiative, you're going to decide to use force, flex, or fulcrum. And force goes first, flex is second, fulcrum goes third. And you'll notice there are D12s next to them. So when rolling with force, you're going to roll two dark dice. When rolling with flex, you're going to roll a dark and a light die, and then with fulcrum, two light dice. And so the dice will be two separate colors, preferably white and black, and one will be dark, one will be light. And depending on the collection of how the dice come out, when you roll a dark die, it will have a dark turn. If you roll a light die and there's some kind of success or failure, it'll have a light turn. And that is the art of it. So if we just want to roll the dice and have a very simple outlook, hey, we want to know, is this a good decision or bad decision? We want to know, are we going into danger or is it safe? You can just roll the dice, whichever one comes out highest. That's it. And that's really in the purview of the game master or the GM. Not sure if we're going to still call it game master, but there's no really reason to change it. Now, we need to pick an approach. So we have 6 approaches, and this is the approach to solving the problem. Are you going to be bold or careful? Will you be subtle or swift, or will you just be wild in your in trying to solve whatever issue it is? whether it's in the middle of combat and you're doing a run and gun, whether you're piloting a ship, whether you're, sneaking past guards or infiltrating someplace or trying to convince someone to go on your side or deceive someone, whatever the case may be, you're going to pick a method and an approach. So you're going to grab some dice, 2 dark dice, 2 light dice, or 1 and 1, and then you're going to find an approach. And that approach, you want to roll high, but not over your approach. And of course, this is a D12 system, so numbers go from 1 to 12, although they tend to fall towards the middle. So your approaches will probably range between 3 and 10, and you want to roll high, but not over. So if you roll over, that means it's going to be bad for you. All right, so well, what happens when we start mixing and matching these dice? So here is a description of a very general description of the methods. So methods are of course picked by the player, and force means it's direct action. You act first in combat, suffers the most major loss if you fail a roll, use the highest die on failed tasks. It's actually use, but I have to change this, use both dice. It uses both dice on failed tasks. And then balance action, use the highest die. I have to change that. I can't believe I missed that. For flex, use the highest die, and then for fulcrum, come on. There we are. So let's move down to, because I had to figure out how to do this in my head, and sometimes layout and such is a little bit difficult sometimes. So right here is a visual representation of the character sheet. So this part here, this up here, it says bold and careful, and then hidden in the background, you can actually see focused. So we have number 4 written in on our character sheet, and I hyper inflated so you could see what it is, and we're going to compare the number 4 to various dice that we roll. And so we're going to compare that. We're going to use force and figure out what that effect is, and so on and so forth. So a little proud of this. It might take a little bit more tweaking for the layout, but let's see what you guys have to say. Raven, hey, what's going on there? Oh, shit lords, I love it. Yeah, cis-normative, where you identify with the solar system you are located in. You're an Alpha Centauri. It's like, yes, don't make me. I don't identify with this system. Oh no, cisnet. Guess how's that for a moniker? Wow. Hey, Raven Rules has just popped in. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Today happens to be hyper focused on designing this science fiction tabletop role playing game. So I'm glad you stopped in. So again, this is a 2d12 system using a light die and a light die and a dark die. And if you're using force, you're using 2 dark dice. So here on this, let me let you zoom out so you can kind of see the page here. This is an example of rolling the dice, and we have 3 pages of this to show force, show flex, and show fulcrum. So it sounds more complicated than it is, and I'm trying to figure out how to describe the complication without it being too complicated. Woo, that's bad. And I wanted something a bit visual. So you have a score of 4 for your careful approach, and you're being careful, and you roll 2 dice. And this is an example. If you rolled a 5 and an 8, then the task failed, and the star, you, the player character, star, suffers a loss of 13, and a dark turn also takes effect. So this is Force has the highest drawback if you fail. Both dice, if you roll over your careful approach, it's going to affect you greatly. Ugh, you don't want that to happen. But you get to go first. But let's say you roll doubles. So if you roll doubles, this is what happens. You roll doubles and it's over your careful score of 4. There we go. Let's increase the size of this. So, damn it. Sorry about that. Let's see. There we go. This is much better. So again, character rolls, you roll double 7s. You want to roll high, but not over your attribute. So doubles double, 7 and 7s, 14. You suffer a loss of 14 and a dark turn takes effect. Now, what is a loss? Instead of describing everything as damage, you suffer a loss. So if you were in a gunfight with, I don't know, AI monitored controlled robots, or you're sneaking into a compound, or you're having an argument with a sibling over some extended family issue, all of that can cause a loss. And losses all happen at the same rate. So if you're going up against an enemy in a gunfight, or you're having family drama, whatever the difficulty of that is, and you're rolling dice and things like that, it's all equal. If you're having contract negotiations, or you're trying to weasel your way onto a starship, or whatever the case may be, loss always happens in the same manner. And what is loss? Let's go upwards. Let's see where loss comes from. So loss will come off of your character sheet in these bricks, these building blocks, what we call pockets. And in each one of your pockets is natural language. So what's going to be written in each of these little hexes is natural language. So you may write down in the natural language, you may say, alleys on Luna, or you might write down it, Olympus Mons, or whatever the case may be. When you build your character and you advance in your character, you're going to write down people, places, things that you benefit from as your character grows. So maybe you pick up a bit of technology, or you've changed your body. You've zippered into another jacket using that cortical stack and some kind of biological body or mechanical body. Maybe there's places you've been to, such as treks. These are places you've been to. Traits that you may gain, like being smart, brilliant, graceful, alluring, that kind of thing. Perceptive, vigilant. You're going to write those in your traits. Threads are like miscellaneous things, connections with people, individuals. Maybe you find a criminal organization or a mercenary group or a political individual. You're going to write those down. Whenever you roll the dice, up to 3 of these will add to your benefit. So you basically answer the question, because and then fill in the blank of whatever trait it is, I gain a +1. And whenever you have a loss, you lose that thing. It's basically whatever you write on your character sheet are your hit points. So the more traits you have, the better your character is, but also the more that you have to lose. So your damage, or your hit points are what your character is. And yes, there are lists of the things that you can pick and choose from for character creation, but after that point, it is natural language based on the adventures and stories you want to tell for your own game. So for an example, if everything happens on the moon, Luna, then the traits written on your character sheet will all associate with Luna. If your game spreads throughout our solar system, then the things that are written on it will be things spread throughout the solar system. So you can be as hyper focused on traits or as broad on traits as you want, based on the type of stories you're going to be telling and the kind of characters there are. So that's what loss is. So that means that, like, this person rolled double 7s, they're going to lose 14 access to 14 of their traits, which is pretty horrible. But this game has a lot of death, but Death isn't permanent. So if you rolled a 3 and a 9 against your score of 4, the task succeeds, and the star causes a loss of 12 to whatever thing they're trying to do. Remember, both dice, you're using force, so both dice count. So you succeeded with one of the dice. That means you get to add them both together. But you suffer a loss of 9 because one of the dice was over your stat. And it also, you have a dark turn. A dark turn is a complication, an additional feature that you're going to have to deal with. So rolling 2 dice means you're always going to have a dark turn. If this person rolls a 4 and a 2, the task succeeds. Because they rolled a 4 and a 2 and both dice are equal to or below their stat, they get to use both of them, which is why the star causes 6 loss to whatever conundrum they're trying to solve. And then there's also a dark turn. Dark doesn't necessarily mean bad. Dark means complicated. A light die means it's not complicated. So that's what it is. It's not good or evil. It's not bad or good. It's complicated, not complicated. Darkness is mystery, basically. And then lastly, this character rolled double 3s, which is below their stat of 4. They're careful of 4. So the task succeeds. The star causes a loss of 6, and a dark turn also takes effect. And like I said, a dark turn may be like a third party shows up, or what's another way to describe this? In a lot of indie games where we have the yes, no, and or yes, no, if, and or buts kind of reaction at the end of it. So you may succeed or fail, and then another complication happens. Maybe a third party shows up, or the environment changes, or a countdown gets ever closer. Maybe one of your orbits ticks ever closer as it gets closer to you. So that's what that is. Alpha Centauri, when you spend too much time in that manosphere. I like that. Funny, but I like it. Yeah, because it's alpha. Yeah, bunch of centaurs. Okay, so now in this here, we're going to take a look at what flex. So if you use flex, you're rolling one die or the other die. And again, here we go. The task failed. Instead, you suffer a loss of 8 because you only use the highest die against you. The task fails. If you roll double 7s, the task fails. Unfortunately, no matter what happens, whenever you roll doubles double, if that makes sense. So you roll double 7s. That means it works against you. It's like a critical fail, and you suffer a loss of 14. You roll both dice. The task succeeds. The star causes a loss of 9 because you get to use the higher die. You were successful with one of the dice of 3, so you get to use the highest of the 2 dice you rolled. But unfortunately, you also suffer a loss of 9 because the highest die is above your stat, which means it fails. So it's kind of equal. And then here you rolled a 4 and a 2. The task succeeds. The star causes a loss of 4 using the highest roll. And then there's a light turn. And the reason there's a light turn is because because this die is white, or the light color, basically. The same as above, right? Despite suffering a loss of 9, there's a light turn because the die, the highest die that was rolled, is the light die. If it was switched, and I tried to figure out, I might have to use different font and switch it up and go like, well, what if the dice are switched? Then that would take effect. And then lastly, of course, the task succeeds. The star causes a loss of 6, and a light turn takes effect. Why? Because they roll double 3s. That means it doubles, which means you cause a loss of 6, maybe to an enemy or something like that. And there's a light turn because the highest die that benefits you, which would probably be the light die, takes effect. And then lastly, one last page, rolling the dice. You're using fulcrum. Not sure. I tried to fit the word, and I didn't want to change the font size, so I just kind of tilted it to the side. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I can get it back to, let's see, 0%. I don't know. Maybe it looks kind of funky sitting there because there's like empty space here. So I'm going to go back. There we go. All right. Um, and again, our character has a careful of 4, and then we do this. Using your fulcrum, you use the lowest die. So you failed, but you only suffer a 5 loss. Doubles double, so we have that looks like it's off a little bit. There we go. Doubles double, so you roll double 7s. Unfortunately, that's like a crit fail. Here, the task succeeds because you rolled 3, which is under your. You want to roll high, but not above. So boom, you cause a loss of 3, but you also suffer a loss of 3. This character also causes, because I want people to know that that's what they now. Causing loss is like causing damage, or picking a lock, or convincing the guard, or running away from, I don't know, drones flying through the air while you're running across rooftops, or you're navigating a sewer system or something like that. Here we go again. Task succeeds. The star causes a loss of 2 because you used the lowest die. And lastly, roll double 3s, which is below your stat, cause a loss of 6 because doubles double. So essentially, you're picking the lowest die, 3, but you roll double, so you double it. So you cause a loss. I gotta go back through here. Why did I just do that? All right, that's enough of that. Woo, trying to explain it. I apologize for for making it seem more complicated than it really is, because it really isn't complicated. Basically, if you're using force, you're using both dice, and both dice will both help you and harm you. You're taking the highest risk with the highest reward. If you're using flex and you're using both a light and a dark die, you're kind of going in the middle. And in that case, you're just going to use the highest die will help you, but it may also harm you. And then lastly, if you're using fulcrum is like you're trying to solve a situation using the least amount of energy with you're being more intelligent than being fast. You're assessing the situation with fulcrum, and that means you're using 2 light dice, which means you're not really gambling on taking a lot of risk, but your reward system is also lower as well. So that's how that works. And then, of course, we have our approaches, and our approaches are natural language. So this is very narrative. This is the art of it. So however you solve a problem, you're going to pick one of these approaches to solve the problem. It's going to have a numerical value. And the rule of thumb is that if you're using one approach, you're not using any of the other approaches. So if you succeed or fail, it will be based narratively on which approach you pick. So if you're being subtle, yes, there's overlap. You can really tell with these words that there's overlap. If you're being subtle, it kind of seems like you're being a bit careful and focused. If you're being swift, it does seem like you're being a little bit bold and wild, right? If you're being careful, I could see someone trying to be subtle and focused, maybe a little bit fast, swift to get something done. But the rule of thumb is, if you're using one, you're not using the other ones. And this is to prevent min-maxing, right? Because you could just say, well, I'm going to put all my points in bold, and every time I do something, I'm just being bold when I do it. Well, that means that you're always drawing attention to yourself, that you are trying to gain favor, that you are being loud and boisterous, that you want people to know what you're doing all the time. And so that's why these are around. And the game master may restrict what action you're trying to take with a specific approach. So let's say you are blinded and you can't see, but you're firing your, I don't know, your X-ray laser rifle, X-ray laser carbine into a crowd to try to, whatever the case may be. Well, then the game master say, listen, you're going to use your wild approach, because maybe Swift may let you get away with Swift, but you're shooting pretty wildly, so you're going to use wild. Whereas if you're trying to draw attention to yourself to let your allies run away, and you want to draw the drones towards you, you're probably going to be using bold to, you're not going to be very subtle in trying to do it. You're going to be bold and, waving your arms with the both flares that you activated to draw the eldritch horror towards you or something of that nature. So that's how that works. So enough about that. Let's talk a little bit. Oh, maybe there's something else I have to show you as well. Sorry. Nope, the focuses, I got to change those. Changed a bit on the art and science thing. Dead Man really gave me some hints here. Why didn't I resolve them? Damn me. Let's talk about death and deletion. So death is going to happen more often than a little bit. It's a bit of a lethal game, but death isn't permanent. Simply because your zipper, your backup brain, your cortical stack can be removed. It can be literally a player character can take a monomolecular blade and carve it out of the back of your head. Maybe an enemy captures it from your brain. You could also beam your brain to your neural pathways across the solar system to be downloaded into another cortical stack to be zipped into another body. So death isn't permanent, but deletion is. And so strangely enough, there's some choices you can make when your character dies, or if and or when you get to that point. Now, one of those things is you can choose when a star chooses to die, they permanently lose a gear slot. And there's 18 hexes, pockets you have for your character sheet where your traits are in. And if you just choose to die, you can just sacrifice yourself for whatever reason. Hey, I'm going to jump out into space and push my ally back towards the space hab, and I'm just going to drift off into space forever and ever. Or I'm going to stand in front of the mutant sludge that's coming after us. I'm going to activate the flare and have it gobble me up. Or I'm going to jump into the sun, or I'm going to stand in front of the engine when it fires up, because whatever the case may be, right? I'm going to go into the radiation chamber and turn the knob to make sure that the engine's shut on, but it means I'll be irradiated and dead. You can easily do that. And then maybe your character comes back from a backup, or your cortical stack your zipper is saved or something like that. So if you do that, you permanently lose a gear slot. Boop, marked off. So now instead of 18 slots, you got 17 and your character goes on. But there's situations where you may be killed. So choosing to die might be a situation where you're in dire straits. And before the next die rolls happen, you're like, I'm going to pick to go out on my own. So when a star is killed, dies, or is murdered, the star must remove an approach and a conviction as a choice before zipping into another jacket. I know that sounds like a strange line of dialogue, but we have 6 approaches. You mark off one of your approaches that you can never use. Now, you may currently not even want to use one of those approaches, but at a certain point, you're going to start marking off approaches, and eventually you're going to get down to one approach, like bold or careful or subtle or swift, and that's the only one you'll have left. And there's also 6 convictions, and that means when you wake up, if and or when you're killed and you wake up, whatever conviction you have a change of perspective, and you may mark that conviction off, and now you have a new conviction. And then at a point in the future, all approaches and convictions will be marked off as a choice, permanently removing the star from play. Now, being removed from play doesn't mean your character is dead. It could be they retire, or they have a change of heart, or they go into some kind of depressive catatonic state. They become an NPC. It's that kind of thing. So your character just becomes removed from play. Doesn't mean that they're dead. And then just before death, you do have an option. Okay, you can go Nova, you can go Nebula, or you can go Void. And basically going Nova is you get the it's like rolling double ones. Double ones technically is a galactic success, even though it's the very lowest roll you can make. You basically decide an action that you want to take, and you automatically succeed in a spectacular way. And then boom, your character's gone, and it leaves play permanently. Create a new character. So before you die, you can get to choose to go out greatly. If you pick Nebula, basically you disappear, vanish mysteriously some kind of way, and you come back the next scene somehow, like drifting off into space, and everyone's like, "Oh, we lost you," and basically it's certainty that you're going to die. You could pick Nebula, and then maybe you were picked up by pirates, or you were unconscious when your oxygen level ran out, but a cable was attached to your suit and it tied around some kind of outcropping, and eventually a automated robot found your body and pulled it back inside, and you went into stasis, or some kind of you air quotes die off screen, and we don't know what happened, but you come back later on. And so you end up losing, if you choose this, you lose another gear slot. So it's like above, right? Where if you die, you choose to die, you lose a gear slot. Well, if you go Nebula, you lose 2 gear slots. And ooh, forget Spiral, it's now GM, because it should always be GM. Boop, 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 when you sit out of the game temporarily from the scene. And then Void basically is you remain beaten and battered. It's basically a sacrifice. So the star is beaten and battered. The star remains in the scene, barely mobile and only able to move and talk in limited fashion, offering no assistance to others and needing help. Essentially, what you're basically saying is, before my character dies, I want to submit to the action, meaning being captured. Maybe you'll be tortured. Basically you're saying, you say to yourself, I have one last way to go out. I'm just gonna give up. I'm going to be under gun, and the guards surround me with their guns, and I'm just going to give up. Or I allow myself to pass out from the poison gas, or something like that, right? And it's just basically a way to give up, to be captured, imprisoned, whatever the case may be, just before your character dies off. So anyway, just wanted to show that to you. Now we're going to talk about fuzzy stuff. Oh, you're true. Clap. Yeah. Jumping into the sun. That's what I call a bright future. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so like the service triangle. Yeah, fast, cheap, good. Pick 2. Yep. Yeah, for those who just like Anon mentioned, talking about like about in business. I know you guys have heard this before, right? In business, there's 3 things. You can get a product or service fast, right? You can get it with quality, or you can get it cheap. Pick 2. Very rarely do you get to pick all 3. And that's exactly what this Nova Nebula Void thing basically is, right? And that's it. Also, I want it, because death is going to happen more often than a little bit. I at least want characters to go out in many ways by a choice on their own. So Nova basically is an opportunity. If you're playing a character and you really don't want the character anymore, and you also don't want to feel like, oh, I rolled the dice, dun 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 dun, oh, and it just sucks. This is just an opportunity to go, you know what? I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory. I'm gonna just make a new character. Cool. The second one is Nebula is, I want to stay in the game, so I'm willing to bow out of this scene and just come back later. And sure, I might be out of the game. Maybe I need to go to the bathroom. Click online, BRB. I'll be right back. Right? I need to go get a snack. I need to relieve my bladder. I love playing in the game. I'm gonna just watch you guys until the scene ends. It's basically, I take myself out of the action. Air quotes, Dungeons and Dragons. I paralyze or mind control myself, so I don't have control of my character any longer. I'm going to bow out and come back. And Void is, no, I want to stay in the game, but I'll let my character be captured, knocked out, paralyzed, grappled, entangled, whatever the case may be, ensnared. I raise my hands up. It's the proverbial, the star gets surrounded by the gunmen and gives up, and that's what that is. And so we could roll the dice and everything, and it's like, oh, your character's gonna die from this one. It's like, I like my character. Okay, I'm just gonna void my way out of this and just say I just give up. But now remember, if you void, there is a drawback to this. The star gains a permanent baggage trait, and the star will need to recover and has a lasting condition for their trauma. For those, just to remind you, we do have baggage. So every character has a number of pockets. There's 18 of them. All your positive stuff is called gear. Gear can be physical things. Gear are your traits. Gear are all the positive things that help your character out and gives you those +1 bonuses whenever you want to start rolling the dice, which is with the maximum of +3. But baggage is not only a loss of that trait, but it gets written over by some other negative event that happens to you, and you carry that with you. This is just talking about what conundrums are. Conundrums are a problem, obstacle, hazard, issue characters have to deal with that's given a numerical number. So combat is a conundrum in and of itself. See here, this right here, a star is their gear and baggage. Baggage just happens to be negative things. Sorry. Here's a list of the baggage that you can acquire. So whenever doubles are rolled, double crits, or sorry, double failures are rolled. So if you have a 4 careful and you roll double 5s, double 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, etc. When you roll those doubles, it's like not only is it go against you, but you're going to probably get some baggage. And this is the baggage list of types of baggage you can have, and you can very easily make up some of your own. Although these cover many things that you're going to come in contact with, but these are just various types of baggage, and they're narrative. I was going to write down stats for like what the mechanical disadvantage of it is, but I said, no, you know what? I'm not going to do that. This is just what's happening. For example, under physical baggage, something like irradiated means your character is going to die from radiation. Under something like ionized, for me, it means that you are electrically stimulated, and so you don't have access to maybe your communications arrays and things like that, and sensors can detect you. Overstimulated is stop being dirty. Overstimulated is being blinded, deafened. You can't feel or taste or something like that, but usually blinded or deafened. Blinded, deafened, and no sense of touch are probably your big 3. Overstimulated may also affect your vertigo, your ability to balance yourself, especially in light gravity and zero gravity. But there's others here like burning, bleeding, immobile, things like that, debilitating, pain, poisoned, breathless. Breathless, of course, is like choking, vacuum, drowning, things like that. Broken, busted ankle, broken rib, broken arm or wrist, that kind of thing. And then there's mental baggage, whether character is angry or tongue-tied, fearful, things like that. And how you get rid of your baggage is just going to be narrative. Yes, it's an homage to Thirsty Sword Lesbians and other parts of Powered by the Apocalypse. Sometimes to get rid of your baggage, you're going to have to do something to get rid of it. So whether it's like apathetic or you're convinced of something or you're confused or you're angry, you're just going to act those things out in order to get rid of that baggage, or maybe someone else can help you get rid of it. And then there's social baggage as well, whether you're in debt to someone or like Han Solo starts out with having a debt to Jabba the Hutt. You might be stalked by mercenaries or something. Paparazzi, the public wants to record the things that you're doing and spread that information around for some reason. Maybe there's gossip, or you're overheard, where an NPC you don't know of overheard a conversation you had and may use that as against you for some reason, spreading things like that. There's associations. Maybe you become associated with a criminal organization or political party or something like that. Maybe you make promises that you need to keep, or whatever. Or maybe you become exposed. You were trying to hide your identity. It becomes exposed. So there's some social baggage in here as well. And of course, there's a D12 system, so you could just roll randomly. And then loss, I don't like this. I'm probably going to delete that. And then we have our convictions. Boom, boom, boom. But these are our convictions. Essentially, You heal baggage and loss by engaging with your convictions. And there's other ways to do it too, but let's see what you guys have to say. Sorry about that. Anon says changing an approach after death might be more approachable, which is sort of what Dune and Smallville do with their value statements. I didn't know that, but I guess it's like a parallel development or osmosis, right? Like the idea is that your character goes through when your character dies. I wanted to display some kind of traumatic and dramatic effect on the character, and by changing, you're going to have three approaches, and by changing one of them, you're saying to yourself something changed in the character. Even if they say that they're the same, there's something different. Yeah, bio breaks can be cured with transhumanism. That is true. The English are going to love the term gear. What do you mean? Is that bad? Does it mean something that I didn't think it would mean? I don't know. Yeah, paparazzi gave out lots of baggage. Paparazzi. Okay, so these are the six. Let's get this a little bit bigger here. This is one of the layouts that I'm actually kind of proud of, because I was like, how am I going to make this look different? And I basically put a side note, just doing the layout and stuff. I put one of these black fade spots back in the back of it, and then change the font color, and it just looks really good. Sorry, I'm going to let you see the whole page. And there it is. I wanted to do some black and white layout with a little bit of red in there, and so I took this and just copied and pasted it, changed the size, moved the layer backwards, and then just put it behind the words, and then just wanted to see. I might actually have to move this out just a little bit, just so it's visible. Some people may not be able to visually see that, but when I put this behind words, I was like, man, what could I do with that? And then I was like, oh, I know, I'll just take it, make it white instead of making it a whole black page with white. I'll just make it white, and with that little part. So anyway, these are your convictions, and your convictions are like an alignment. So you don't have to act towards your conviction, but your conviction, it benefits you to play into your conviction. So it's all positive. There's no negative to it. And by engaging with your conviction, you can very easily heal back your losses. So again, you can heal 1, 2, or 3 loss based on the conviction and its impact on civilization. So you're always acting in relationship to the world, because this is a transhumanist game, and I didn't want to force anyone to participate in the game, but I wanted to give benefits, reward the actions you want to see. And you know what? I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Sorry, there's little bits and pieces that sometimes I'm looking at it like that might be a little bit better. Sorry about that. Anyway, I need to stop fiddling with it. Stop it, DBJ. All right. So here are our first 3. So you have Explorer, Extropian, and Expansion. So if you're an explorer, you want to guide, search, navigate, go on treks. So you are either searching for new places, or you want to guide other people to new places. So here's like chart a new path, or contact an isolated community. And lastly, establish lasting relationships with strangers. So the larger you affect the outer population, the outer world, to get out of your turtle shell and explore outwards, the better your character will recover and become more of an explorer. Extropians are healers, builders, designers. They are the architects. They are the medical technicians. They are the people who build communities and things like that. So if you heal the wounded, or oversee a construction project, or reach towards eternal life or legacy, that's Extropian. The ultimate of an Extropian is immortality, not just for yourself, but for others. And then we have Expansion. You want to expand your culture and what you are bringing with you to someplace else. I dare say it runs very close to um, colonization, but I didn't want that kind of baggage attached to it. It's more expansionism. So you want to settle, colonize, go to capture territory, plant a flag, found a homestead or embassy, create a lasting governance or presence somewhere else. Excellence is about teaching, leading, educating, and training, improving yourself or others. If you found a lasting educational program somewhere, that's about excellence. Excellence is basically like the equivalent of making yourself big and bad, more muscles, more, brilliant, getting cybernetic implants, things like that. Expression is about not just artistically, like, for example, in expression, we have artistry, public speaking, chorales, journalism. It is, you can entertain or enthrall a crowd, or create direct a lasting creative expression, meaning like, it's not just art. It could be politics. It could be giving voice to a community that can't give voice to itself. So I don't want this to seem like this isn't necessarily the bardic conviction. It is more like giving voice to a thing that has no voice, like journalism, or speaking to a crowd and getting them motivated. And lastly, we have enterprise. I was helped by not picking the point. It was called exploitation, which sounds pretty horrible. This is more of an enterprise. So you're engaging in finance or extraction, refining or organizing people, fund a new business venture or entrepreneurial foundation for citizens. This is essentially creating a business of sorts in a place or amongst people that aren't organized to do a thing. And mind you, this doesn't need to be monetary. It could be maybe people don't know how to or don't have the capacity to harness a comet, an ice comet, and they need that water, the oxy and water for their community, and maybe harness some of the minerals in it and their mineral rights, and you establish for this community their ability to harness this stuff to allow them to last another 200 years or something like that. So that's what that's about. And what's last? Something else I can show you. Pockets and gear. And this is the visual language of what pockets, gear, and baggage look like. Okay. So everything is a pocket. You put gear and baggage in your pockets. And so you're going to write natural language stuff. Like this character has razor tech as some technology. They're vigilant and they have spacewalking written on their character sheet. And if they suffer a loss, they mark that trait out and just mark it off so they don't have use of it until they can recover it. And then if they retain baggage, not only does it get marked off, but now they are irradiated. So currently, this character only has access to their razor tech, which is X-ray and gamma ray technology. They don't have their vigilant stat and their spacewalking stat, and they're also irradiated. So they are walking around with radiation in their body. And so the character probably needs to get rid of the radiation and or try to get back their vigilant, maybe because they're being hunted. They were attacked by a robot or something, or they were exposed to a solar flare, or I don't know, whatever the case might be. And says corporations. You were so right. Yeah, corporations call exploitation enterprise too. Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Hey, Corey. I missed the start of this one, but I can't wait to go back and restart. Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Just giving an overview of this game that we are working on. It'll be free. Don't worry about it. It'll be free. I'm probably going to have to pay someone to help me make it print on demand if that's possible, but I'm not going to make it paid for. Yeah, forced to be a gnat. And Dead Man did point out that there isn't any option to be a Lud, like a Luddite, like a natural born human being. And I thought it would be kind of cool to have I'm working on a 12-point system of picking little traits as a natural born human being. Let me make this imagery a little bit bigger here, so you can kind of see what the hell's going on here. Anon says, also on approaches, I find that phrasing them as adverbs with clear consequences for failure work best. For example, forcefully, carefully, covertly, quickly. Oh, so you're saying, let me see, let's go back. All right, so boom, boom. Let's go back to the character sheet. So what you're saying is it would be better if this is worded as like boldly, carefully. What would focusedly be? Focused actually sounds pretty good. Subtly, swiftly, wildly. Am I correct in that? Am I correct in that being assessing what you're saying? And I'll give you opportunity to say that. Would an obsidian therapist be a baggage handler? Damn, that's oh, I love that. I love that. Would an obsidian therapist be a baggage handler? Yes, yes, they would. And it says yes. Okay, all right. Well, let's see. Let's do this real world. Now I'm probably gonna have to go back in through the document and change that. Will it fit? Why is that not what? Oh, the font. So what you're saying? So let me see if I can say this. Talk through. It's doing that. It's saying it's misspelled because I probably typed it in swiftly and wildly. It's doing that because even though the font is all caps, I didn't actually type it as caps. It's probably lowercase, higher case, something like that. So what your subtlety, subtly, although subtlety is actually, well, did I spell it right? Subtlety, not subtly. Subtly. That is a word, right? Oh, there's an E. Yes, that's what I meant. All right, DBJ. Whew, you are horrible. There we go. Whew. All right. All right. So what I'm gathering in what you're telling me to change on this is that when someone uses an approach, they're not just being bold, they are acting boldly. And so when a person describes the action that they're taking, what you're saying is by making it an adverb, it's more it's more active. What's the language I'm thinking of? Oh, wow. It's on the tip of my tongue. A person is acting with purpose rather than acting passively. So they are not just bold, they are acting boldly. So the character is proactive in their choices. And I'm saying this out loud to be like, yes, thank you, Shice. Yes, same effect as using active. Duh, you put it in there before I got to it. Yeah, you put it in there, and I couldn't see the chat. Yes, same effect as using active voice. Right. It's a proactive choice. My character is acting boldly, stuff like this. Okay, perfect. Okay, whoo, got that out. I will have to go through the document and change some of it, but yeah. Okay, that's good. Now I can boldly go. Yeah, go where no gender neutral person has gone before. Exactly. You may absolutely do that. Yeah. Very funny. Oh, side note for science geeks out there, I chose, and I know this is a little bit on the nose, but follow me with this. Are you using to make what are you using to make the document? Well, right now it's sitting in Canva, and I'm using it's actually made under a document for a flyer. So it's like an 8.5 by 11 flyer. So that's what it is under Canva, but I can export it as different types of documents, like a PDF or PNG or whatever. I can export it as something else, and I'm going to need someone else who's very good at layout, and I might have to pay them to get it on like drive-through, which is, I have an account on drive-through for producing other materials and things like that. But I don't want to. Sometimes we game designers think that we want to design games when really, if we want to produce a game in a physical and digital comment, what we really want to be is marketers and accountants and layout artists and editors and all the stuff that no one likes to do. And that's me. I don't want to do those things. I just want to play games, and I love science fiction. So thank you very much there, Anon, and you guys helping this. Now, located to the right of my head, to the left, I'm sorry, to the left of me, to the right of the character sheet is a focus list. I'm still debating whether I'm going to call it tools or focus, but I want characters to pick from that focus list to what's the best way to describe this? It is the equivalent of a character class in a character class list system, that a character has the ability to have one or more of these, one or two, to use to add an element into the game that no one else has. It is their special ability. So adrenaline is your ability to control your adrenaline. Badge means you have some kind of badge, license, or authority over something. Combatives is in combat. You can do something special in combat. Cadre is you can organize a collection of people. Cloak is hiding your identity and your presence. Cognate is pre and post cognition, learning the future and the past. Predictive things like computer predicting technology, or maybe that technology is beamed to you from an outside source like an AI. Cybernetics, elemental. I might just call that uncivilized, and I think I'm going to go with uncivilized. Uncivilized. Luck, of course, it means what it says. Psyx stands for psychological, extreme or exercise. It's basically using mind implants and mind alteration to do a thing. It's not actual psychic powers. Machine is being able to modify machines, and zeal is like faith-based. And I'm still deciding how narrative and mechanical I want it to be, but you're going to be able to put that on your character sheet into your core. So in your core, you have your conviction and your focus, and it's going to be here. So when all of your other pockets are gone, all the other traits in your pockets are gone, and you suffer a complete loss, it's going to hit your core foundation, and that's where you lose that. I want it to be more narrative, like meaning like and it's going to have a number to it. So you're going to be able to use this over and over again, but the minute you roll the dice, you fail a dice roll, you roll above whatever your core is, you no longer have access to it. So let's say someone has cybernetics. You could say in this game, like, I want to use my cybernetic arm, and no one else has a cybernetic arm, but you have. Like, I want to put my cybernetic arm, I want to roll the dice to use my cybernetics to do something. And it's like, oh, you want to plug into the computer? Yep, that's what I want to do. Okay, well, roll your cybernetics and that kind of thing. And then now you have this cybernetic tool that's separate from everything else, because that's what makes you special. What's another thing before we get out of here? Oh, armor. Armor protects your pockets. So there's 3 levels of armor. You're going to check mark 1, 2, 3, and then check mark these hexes, and you'll check mark up to 1, 2, or 3 of them based on how much armor you're wearing. Light, medium, and heavy, 1, 2, and 3. You check mark it, and that means that part of your character sheet is protected. So if you suffer 3 damage or less, or 3 loss or less, you just ignore it. you can sacrifice one level of your armor if you take 3 or more, no matter how much is over. So if the dice roll and you roll double 12s, that's 24. That's a loss of 24. I'm sure you're going to be like, yeah, I want to stay in the fight. I'm going to sacrifice my armor and not take the 24 loss or damage. And so that means that part is no longer protected by armor. The second benefit of having armor is that as long as that section is armored, you will not only not lose access to that trait, you won't gain baggage to that trait, if that makes sense. So if you have a trait like mountain climbing and diplomacy and laser rifles protected by your armor, even as you start suffering loss, you can still use it. So you're doing the countdown timer of suffering damage on your character sheet, but you still have access to your laser rifle and things like that because it's been protected by your armor. So your armor protects your pockets and what's in your pockets, your gear and your baggage. Korai says, I like the term foci or focus. I heard it first in Numenera, then in Worlds Without Number, and it gives a cool distinction. Okay. Like I said, this is open. I don't want to do it this way, but we can, if you notice things and you're like, maybe you should change that. Drew says the word cognate is not related to cognition, but to bloodlines. Okay, well then, okay. Really? There we go. Cognition. Why is it? Oh, there we go with the mixed. Whenever I have a font that's all caps, I sometimes forget what's capitalized and lowercase, and that's probably what it fixed to it. So okay, cognition is probably better. What's last? What are we last here? Last thing. To the very left, orbits, vitals, and ducats or ducats or whatever. That's money. Vitals is your vitality. I changed that from vians to vitals. That's basically your food, water, nutrients, psychological things, far more intricate than just food and water. In space, everything wants to kill you. So just living means you're going to be affected by background radiation. You're going to be affected by isolation syndrome. You're going to be affected by dysmorphia when you start changing bodies. What else? Wow, my brain just stopped. A muscle atrophy, bone decalcification, all that kind of stuff, and it's all wrapped up in your vitals. And so I haven't decided how I'm going to count this moving forward, but each of these is going to have a number in it, and you're going to roll your dice. And if you fail the die roll, you roll above that number. That means that that means it drops to 0 and you're going to have to get your vitals, or your orbit comes close, or you run out of money and that kind of thing. So let's say you want to buy passage on a starship. You roll high, you want to roll high, but not above your ducats or your ducats or your whatever. And if you fail it, that means, yes, you rent the thing, but now you don't have any cash on hand. If it's a very high score, like an 8, 9, 10, you can just rent vehicles and rooms and pay for passage all the time. You're probably not going to fail. Characters are going to start out with 12 points between these, so they're probably going to start out at 4, 4, 4 in general. But you can lower it down as far as 2 and then raise it up and stuff like that, whatever. So anyway, that's what it is. And orbits is a story element. If you're Han Solo, your orbit may be that Jabba the Hutt is an orbit coming towards you. An orbit can be a project or a downfall. It's orbits in this game are like clocks in Blades in the Dark. So it can be a GM tool that when you fail something or something the GM forces you to roll your orbits to see if you succeed or fail. If you succeed, the danger hasn't come to you. If you fail, it moves ever closer, and then boom, it just, Jabba the Hutt shows up. Right, Han Solo? Right. That's that kind of thing. He just barely made it in the Star Wars A New Hope because that scene was deleted. when he met Jabba the Hutt. But in the second movie, sorry, yeah, you're going to get frozen. So, yeah, bass player from Alice in Chains stole baggage so he could get some gear. So he could buy himself some gear. That's kind of weird. But okay, so thank you very much for the foci focus thing. Tools also to me just sounds a little bit too what's the way to say this? A little bit too focused on the physical, and I didn't want it focused on the physical aspect of the game only. So here's a little bit. Okay, we're done with that. Lastly, a little bit of science. So, and it's something that's a little bit on the nose. Many of the planets in our solar system have objects that are known as they're Trojan objects in the orbit of the planets. So Earth actually, we have right now at least 2 Trojan objects that are circling in our own orbit. Trojan objects are in the rest in the Lagrange points of planets that circle the sun. And those objects are 60 degrees forward and 60 degrees behind. L4 is forward, L5 is behind the circular orbit of the planets. And some planets have Trojan objects, some don't. So Earth actually has right now 2 forward Trojan objects. Let me see if I can find Earth's Trojan objects. Earth Trojan asteroids are made of primitive material dating back to the birth of the solar system. And here we go. What are their names? Their name numbers. Astronomers already asteroids located on the Earth leading Lagrange point, or L4, and the Earth trailing Lagrange point, L5, are known to astronomers as Trojan asteroids or Earth Trojans. Astronomers already knew Earth had 1 Trojan. Now we know it has 2, with the second announced on February 1st, 2022. And the on the nose that I was talking about, that I mentioned earlier, is using the designations, the Greek and Roman and Shakespearean designations that are given to a lot of extrasolar objects as the basis to describe what they are narratively in the game system. And I know that sounds like it's on the nose, but I also think it's a very easy shorthand. So Mercury is like Mercury, the god, a Greek god, but it is a place where a message, political messages, are sent throughout the solar system. That's what it's like. These Trojan objects, much like the distinction of the Trojan War and things like that, is a place that where Lagrangians or the Lagran live, and they are both helpful to maintain living in space, but it also may be the seeds of where revolution is building. We actually see this. Anon says, while thematic language is important for branding, metaphorical phrasing can act as a barrier to understanding. Do you think so? Okay. Okay. So is it a Roman? Yeah, Roman gods and Greek gods. The names, like Jupiter is Zeus. They go back and forth. The naming of stellar objects goes back and forth. Sometimes you get the Roman description. Sometimes you get the Greek, and then sometimes the gods are like weirdly described, because you get a lot of demigods in there too, in the some of the moons in the asteroid belt and things like that. But I wanted to use a shorthand to describe different places. So like Mars, of course, is the god of war. Ares is the Greek, and I think Mars is Roman. But it's not necessarily like the Expanse, because in the Expanse, Mars has a full military entourage and things like that. It's not quite like that. Mars is more insular in this setting, but same thing. Yep, a lot of moons are nymphs, rain nymphs, and water nymphs. A lot of I went down a rabbit hole of looking for the description of a lot of the moons, and Zeus was a sex offender. Let's not get it twisted. There's a lot of like shape changing and being jealous of human beings in there and their beauty and all that. There's a lot of that too. Um, Not going to hit things directly on the nose when it comes to that kind of thing, but yeah. But I thought it would be kind of cool, like thinking of Trojan objects, and I was like, well, there was a Trojan War and there's the Trojan horse and things, and I said, yeah. Yeah, wouldn't mind getting mooned by a nymph. Yeah, yeah. Also a furry. Yeah, but furries have bung holes like cats. Although, I guess if a furry did have a bung hole, that's both good and bad. All right, guys, we got to get out of here. Anyway, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much for allowing me to. I don't know what's the best way to say this. To delve into this system and you guys helping me build it live, which I really appreciate. Yeah, it's Europa, but yes, Zeus turned himself into a bull so he could have his way with, and that actually sounds pretty funny. Yes, there's so many. I mean, hell, there's the bear, the Ursa Major, Ursa Minor constellation. That what's her name? Eos was thrown into the stars to save herself after being abused and things. There's a whole lot of that. But actually, storytelling wise, it can make a lot of sense since this is hard science fiction to have things. Yeah, Zeus is a metaphor for the EU. Oh, okay, okay, okay. I was like, am I getting it? I don't think I'm getting it. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting it. I thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. We're gonna Tuesdays and Thursdays are gonna be pure Obsidian Star. I'm looking for what I may do is get really cheap D12s and then get make logo inspired bags or sacks or something for them. I'm also thinking about like character sheets and putting them in hard plastic sleeves and things like that. That kind of stuff. And a swan, he was original Manimal. Hashtag Manimal. Yeah, I remember the TV show Manimal. And says no problem. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for the adverberization of the wording. I'm going to go back and maybe make some more active language because it is passive when you say something. Oh, yes, I'm careful or I'm acting carefully. It feels like forward momentum, and I like the idea of having forward momentum, which is why I wanted to have. I didn't want an alignment system, but I wanted something where people can align themselves in the future and act forward towards it. So that's why a lot of it is like, well, if you do this thing, you get this benefit. So I wanted something that was forward progressing. So thank you, Anon. You're like the same page. Yeah, we're there. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. My lighting is so terrible. Anyway, again, we'll take us out on some Obsidian Star paste and things. I need to make a new intro outro video as regards to all this kind of stuff. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being here. Please be creative. Don't be destructive. And your time is very valuable. I hope you can make some change in your tabletop role-playing experiences. Yeah. Yeah, Scheiss's activating language is important and good for readability. Yeah, and it really sounds like doing something instead of reading something that you might do. I know that sounds, I worded it very funny, but it does lend itself to in my head canon. Now that you mentioned it, my brain is processing it as doing something. I'm doing this thing rather than I'm reading it and I may or may not do that thing. So yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Liz, that's why you need editors. That's it's not going to show up. Time to destroy some face fuchsia poop shape. Exactly. All right, guys, I'll see you later. Peace and tranquility.